Now, certificate services is a technology that guaranteed will be on this exam for one very simple reason, and that is it's a fundamental part of everything that we do in our networks now. And this is Active Directory Certificate Services, and you'll see it abbreviated as ADCS. Now, let's talk about what this is first of all, and I want to give you a little diagram, and we're going to cover quite a bit in this video. But I want you to get your head around what Certificate Services is. First of all, it is the Microsoft implementation of a public key infrastructure. Now, what that means are these public-private keys that we use to encrypt data. But that is based on the issuance of a certificate that guarantees that we are who we are. And so there's a couple of things that can happen here, and I'm not going to go too deep, but we are going to create certificates after we have validated the identity of someone, and then we attach that certificate to them, and also along with that certificate we have public and private keys, and they can give out their public key, and then anything that they want to use, they can use the certificate to verify their identity, number one. They can also use this scenario to encrypt information with the private key, send it to you, and if my public key will decrypt it, then you know that public and private key are related through that certificate, and you are in fact dealing with who you think you are, and there is some retribution there. There is a third party, somebody who's taking responsibility for saying, yeah, we've checked this person out, we know who they are. Let's look at a quick little diagram of that. There is a user out there on the internet, this could be you, and there is a resource that they want to get to, but there is a problem. How do they know that this person is trustworthy? How do they know they're not connecting to some sort of worm factory here or some sort of virus factory that's going to steal data off their computer and do all kind of stuff? Well, what we're needing is some sort of third-party application. This happens all the time in life. It's the way most of us got married, right? Someone introduced us to a girl that they know the family or they knew them, and oh, she's a nice girl and so forth. Ladies, you probably met husbands, again, same way. Not just some weirdo called you up out of the phone book and said, hey, let's go to dinner. There was some third-party validation. Hey, this guy's not a nut. He walks upright, all that kind of stuff. You need to meet him. So this is exactly what's happened in that scenario. The user needs to connect and get something off this resource, but how do we know we can trust that resource? That resource goes to a company like VeriSign. There's a bunch of other ones out there. VeriSign's first logo I found, so I stuck it on here. But VeriSign's job is to validate people, to validate their identity. And so these people contact VeriSign, they jump through their hoops, they pay them money, they provide all kind of personal records, they may even appear public, in person at their office. There's all kinds of stuff going on for the different levels, and they satisfy VeriSign. This is who we are, this is where we are, this is what we do, and we're not out here to rip people off or steal from them or this or that. But this, we're telling you where to find us if that happens. So now VeriSign generates a certificate, and this certificate is on that machine and it's on its websites, and now when the user connects, they can then see that certificate, and the browser will automatically check for it, and it sees that it was signed by a publicly accepted certificate authority, VeriSign, and it says, okay, these people have been checked out, and you're relatively safe to connect to this website. Now that is basically what's going on. Now, what can PKI capabilities do for us? A whole list of things. We can use this whole PKI idea to encrypt data files using those public and private keys. We can encrypt remote communications. So not only can we encrypt data files, which is locally on our hard disk and storage, but we can encrypt them as they're being communicated across networks. Secure email, same thing. Secure logons. Now, it's very easy for me to get past a username and a login. I can do social engineering. I can figure out your password and so forth. I can deduce what your login is just by looking at mine if we're in the same company. It's the last name and the first two initials of the first name or whatever. But if your user has a certificate attached to it, then that's how the computers are going to know for sure that's you. and we can put those on smart cards or dongles or all kind of stuff, and you have to have it physically to prove your identity. Secure websites. This is secure socket layer encryption. This is the basis of it. We can secure our servers. We can put certificates on our servers. We can secure wireless communications. We can protect data from tampering. We can do digital signatures and so forth using our certificates. So there's just a lot of possibilities here. The components of this are the certificate authorities, which we're going to talk about in a separate video. And these certificate authorities are the servers that issue and manage certificates. And notice we have to also manage them. If I issue a certificate and we put it out there and you browse to it and you see that certificate, how do you know that certificate is still valid? And so we're going to have to manage these things. There's CA Web Enrollment, where users can request a certificate via a browser. And that's normally done internally. And we're going to have to maintain a certificate revocation list. Now, if you come to me and say, hey, I want you to sell me a certificate and verify who I am, I say, okay, and we do it. I find out later that you're some sort of criminal and you're ripping people off and you're stealing identities and stuff. I can revoke your certificate. Now when the browser hits and it sees the certificate's not valid, it throws up a message and warns the end user. Online Responder just looks at a specific certificate instead of looking at an entire certificate revocation list. That's something that's new in Windows Server 2008. And so watch for that. You're going to see something about that on the exam, almost guaranteed. The last part of certificate services that you may see on the exam is Network Device Enrollment Service. And notice this is kind of cool. This provides certificates for devices that used to not get them at all, routers, switches, and so forth. So now we can positively identify all of our network devices in our network as well. So that's a real quick high-level overview of certificate services. And in the next video, I want to do a little animation to really help you understand these certificate authorities, because that's where they end up getting you on the exam. So join me there, and we'll talk about certificate authorities.